Hey, this is Eric with Astrology for Awakening, where we look at the current astrological aspects as doorways, as invitations, as initiations into our deeper awakening life. And today we're going to kind of talk about what's happening over about a week period, a little more than a week. Venus is going to be squaring Saturn, and then Venus is going to be about a week or so later, opposition to Uranus. So Venus is running the gauntlet, in a sense, between these two challengers. And so another way to say it is that the energy of the heart, this impulse, our impulse to connect and to cultivate intimacy and to cultivate relationships, is going through a challenging and potentially very fruitful time. So Venus is in the sign of Scorpio, and just in general, when any planet is moving through a sign, and planets are always moving through the signs of the zodiac as long as we're living in a time-space continuum, then that planet's primary energy, in a sense, its pure nature, is going to be colored by the values of that sign and infused with the motivations of that sign. And that planetary energy is going to be oriented towards the goals and the desires of that sign. So we're talking about when we're on the wheel, and in mystical tradition, in yoga, and all esoteric schools, there's this distinction between living on the wheel and living within the linear or balanced consciousness that flows through the central channel, the sacred river of awakening. But as long as we're on the wheel, we're going to have these ever-changing flavors and colors and dynamics of our karmic life. And the planets will be perpetually moving through these different perspectives, these different orientations, through these different weather systems and these different value structures based on the signs they're in. And the signs themselves are always and archetypically situated in a particular geometric relationship to each other, particular structural relationship to each other. Some signs are innately appreciative of other signs, and some signs ruffle the other signs' feathers kind of organically. But the bottom insight, the fundamental realization is you're not your signs, not even the planets. You are a spirit soul who has chosen to move through a particular sequence of unfolding patterns called this life, this incarnation. And each of those patterns, from first breath to last breath, each of those patterns is a specific and multi-leveled, multi-layered manifestation composed of people, events, and things, thoughts and emotions, bodily sensations, energetics, cultural meanings, social structures, ecosystem dynamics. It's a complete world at every moment. And each moment of your life is interconnected with the big life of the cosmos in which you are embedded. And as we say again and again in Astrology for Awakening, so the astrological aspects, the astrological energies, are a way of simplifying the vast complexity of the cosmos into a core set of symbols that are active during a particular patterning, a particular time period. And each of those patterns is an invitation, a specific invitation for you to remember in a particular way your true nature as spirit, so that you can, awaken to that and re-enter the stream of experiences that you've chosen, that you can re-enter them with greater wisdom, greater love, greater presence, and as an agent of awakening just by the awakening that you carry. So this brings us back to what we're talking about right now, which is Venus in Scorpio moving through the square to Saturn and the opposition to Uranus. So when Venus is moving through Scorpio, that love impulse wants to go very deep. Not just tear off clothes, but tear off masks, right? Burn away the social facades in the fire of loving connection. A fire of love that transmutes the limited self-sense into a sense of communion with the primal ground of being. But in order to fulfill that impulse completely and authentically, in order to go deep, very often long-held patterns of conditioning, and particularly of self-protection, may need to be released. And so the image of this period is that of a shell that's protecting a vulnerable and growing life form. This is an ancient and archetypal image. The shell that protects, but which can also imprison. The shell that has protected can be outgrown, and then it becomes a prison. So the patterns of protection that once kept the heart safe, and we all have them, that kept Venus contained, can become a prison that blocks our deeper connection, that constricts our capacity to experience intimacy with life. And this is where Saturn and Uranus come in their challenging roles. The square is a challenging aspect. The opposition is a challenging aspect. They're good challengers. They're challengers that are going to serve to crack open the shell. Now, one of the images of Saturn is that of the great teacher. So this is not like the smiling, kindergarten teacher who showers you with love and gives you stickers on your drawings. This is the unmoved teacher who can seem severe in bringing you face to face with what must be seen. What must be seen is what we have turned away from. Saturn takes us to the wall of the prison, pushes us up against that wall and says, you built this wall and you have to take it down brick by brick. It's a rough truth to hear, and Saturn does this by bringing into our life people and events and situations that make us see, I've been building this wall, these walls, for lifetimes. And to see that the ways that we've outsourced our authority and buried or projected the vulnerable and unintegrated parts, powerful parts, onto people, events, and things. But particularly during this Venus period, we see how we have projected it onto that person who is now appearing as our taskmaster and teacher. Remember, C.G. Jung said that, roughly said this, that which is not made conscious will appear as fate. Those energies that have not been made conscious and integrated will appear as fate. And fate means people, events, and things. Why is this coming into me? It's because Saturn is inviting us, in a demanding way. Saturn, in an unequivocal way, is inviting us to face the harsh reality of our situation. Now, there's a way to take that input, that Saturn message, that Saturn teaching. There's a way to take it that can lead us into feelings of depression, despair, hopelessness. And that's not what I think the full invitation is about. But there is a paradox here, because if we take the idea of hopelessness, Saturn does want us to give up hope. As long as that hope, he wants us to give us the hope that is untethered from the demands and the limits of our most grounded and our most mundane earth life experience. It wants it to be linked firmly to your authority and your capacity to face the truth of your situation. So Venus squared Saturn can start to feel sometimes like the hope is being crushed out of your heart, or like your sweet dreams and the rainbows that you painted in your mind are being kind of painted over, rollered over with black, flat black paint. But Saturn's impulse, its desire, is for us to reclaim our inner authority and to see the ways in which we've betrayed our own values and where we've adopted or leaned into victimhood while turning away from what from a Saturnian perspective is the bedrock truth that you are powerful. And in this particular period of time, Saturn is in Aquarius, where the square is happening, where Saturn takes on a particularly aloof air. Aquarius is an air sign. Saturn in Aquarius is demanding that that we end self-perpetuated imprisonment. And that can be a very bitter pill to swallow. And Saturn's grace and Saturn's love is tough love. It doesn't come softly, it comes demandingly, that we see the deeper capacities within us that we have not been giving ourselves, that you have not been giving yourself credit for. So the thing is to look at your life, look at your relationship life in particular during this period, and notice who is arising in a darker, more aloof, more judgmental, more distant, cold, and critical form. And take a breath. Center yourself, and for a moment, rather than fixating on that darkness over there, turn around and reflect on what is being called for. What is Saturn calling forth from you? What are the qualities that you need to claim from the darkness within? What are the qualities you need to embody, to break through from deep within you, so you can meet the person and meet the situation with strength and with love, so that you can be fierce without resentment, fierce in the clarity of your needs, your boundaries, and your standards. These are all Saturn words. Saturn is putting pressure on all of us to turn within, but not to depression, not to collapse, but rather to discernment and to connection with those inner resources, so we can open up and listen and hear and see what is trying to wake up in us. What is Saturn wanting to wake up with all that intense teaching that's coming in the form of those people or that person? So it's time for the shell to break, but the shell can only be broken from inside. And this is where Uranus comes into play about 7 days later. While Saturn has a tendency to move slowly and to linger, Uranus's energy is to move rapidly, lightning, and to fire quickly and early. Uranus is the symbol of the lightning bolt of illumination that flashes within you. It is the breakthrough energy of clarity, the electric jolt of energy that breaks the shell so you can embody your uniqueness and experience innate freedom. Innate freedom, not rebellion against that authority, that controller, that darkness. No, it's awakening to innate freedom. That's what cracks the shell. That's what breaks you out of the self-imposed prison. Fighting against the prison wall that you built is just building more bricks. Whether you think it's the other person, it's not. The other person is the symbol of what needs to be integrated, called forth. And so the freedom is innate. It's a feature, it's an equality of spirit that is you. And it's not other people who hold us back. It's not other people who are silencing us. It's not other people who are limiting, which is not to say that it won't appear like that. It may. And there may be structures in the world that are in that same prison. Whether the warden or the prisoner, they're all in the prison together. But for us who are on the path of awakening, having absorbed the uncompromising message of Saturn, you built your own prison. Of course, you built it with the help of all these other people that you enrolled. You enrolled them in that journey. But now you've reclaimed the authority and you can allow the liberational energy of Uranus to crack open the shell of protection so that your heart can enter into a deeper, more authentic, more interdependent, not codependent, not dominant, but truly interdependent relationship with those you love and with all of life.